I'm Alex, 32M, and I've been married to Sarah, 29F, for 5 years now. We met in college during our senior year at a mutual friend's party. It was one of those instant connections. We talked all night and I knew she was special. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged, and then tied the knot in a small ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. Sarah and I don't have any kids and weren't planning on having any soon. We both have demanding careers. I work in software development and she's in marketing. Our jobs keep us busy, but we always try to make time for each other. Date nights, weekend getaways, the usual couple stuff. Our marriage was pretty good, or at least I thought it was. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but overall I felt we were happy together. One of the things I always loved about Sarah was her spontaneity and zest for life. She was always coming up with new adventures for us, whether it was trying a new restaurant, planning a surprise trip, or dragging me to salsa dancing classes. I tend to be more of a homebody, but Sarah brought me out of my shell. It was one of the things that initially attracted me to her. About 8 months ago, Sarah came to me with an unexpected request. We were having a quiet night in, just watching TV and relaxing after a long week at work. Out of nowhere, she paused the show and turned to me with a serious look on her face. She said she wanted to try ethical non-monogamy, basically an open marriage where we could both see other people. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea she was even interested in something like that. When I asked her why, she gave me a bunch of reasons. She felt like she missed out on experiences by marrying young, she wanted to explore her sexuality more, she thought it would spice up our relationship, etc. She talked about how monogamy was an outdated social construct and how humans weren't meant to be with just one person forever. I was devastated. I couldn't understand why I wasn't enough for her anymore. The thought of her being with other men made me feel sick. I told her absolutely not, that I wasn't comfortable with it at all. We'd always been monogamous and I had no desire to change that. Sarah seemed disappointed but dropped it for the time being. Over the next few weeks, Sarah kept bringing it up. She'd send me articles about the benefits of open relationships, tell me about friends who were trying it successfully, and kept insisting it would be good for us. I still wasn't convinced, but she was relentless. I started noticing changes in Sarah's behavior too. She was going out more with her friends, coming home later than usual. She became more secretive with her phone. I hate to admit it, but I started to get suspicious. Was she already seeing someone else? Had she cheated on me? I never found any concrete evidence, but the trust between us was eroding. Finally, after about a month of this, she gave me an ultimatum: either we try ethical non-monogamy or she wanted a divorce. I was shocked that she would threaten our entire marriage over this. I loved Sarah and couldn't imagine my life without her. We'd built a life together, our home, our friends, our routines. The thought of divorcing was terrifying. I spent days agonizing over the decision. I talked to my best friend Tom, 33M, about it. He thought I was crazy for even considering it, said Sarah was being selfish and manipulative. But he didn't understand how much I loved her and how scared I was of losing her. In the end, against my better judgment, I reluctantly agreed to give it a try. We set some ground rules: no bringing people to our home, getting regularly tested, being honest about our activities, etc. Sarah was thrilled when I agreed. She kept saying how much this would strengthen our relationship and bring us closer together. I wanted to believe her, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut. For the first couple months, Sarah dove right in. She was going on dates constantly, sometimes 3 to 4 nights a week. She'd come home late, sometimes not until the next morning. Meanwhile, I was struggling. I had no interest in seeing other women, but the loneliness was killing me. I'd sit at home, imagining Sarah with other men, driving myself crazy with jealousy and insecurity. Sarah always seemed so happy and energized when she came home from her dates. She'd try to tell me about them, thinking it was good to be open, but I couldn't bear to hear the details. I felt like I was dying inside but tried to put on a brave face. I didn't want Sarah to know how much this was tearing me apart. Things at work started to suffer. I couldn't concentrate, my performance was slipping. My boss noticed and asked if everything was okay at home. I lied and said everything was fine, not wanting to admit the truth. Eventually, my friend Tom convinced me I should try actually participating instead of just sitting at home. He said if Sarah was out having fun, I should too. He helped me set up some dating app profiles. To my surprise, I actually got quite a few matches. I went on a few casual dates but didn't click with anyone. It felt strange and wrong, like I was cheating on Sarah even though I had her permission. Then I met Becca, 28F. We matched on Tinder and decided to meet for coffee. From the moment we started talking, I felt a connection. She was smart, funny, and easy to talk to. We shared a lot of common interests. We both loved hiking, sci-fi movies, and trying new craft beers. We really hit it off and started seeing each other regularly. Being with Becca made me feel attractive and desired in a way I hadn't in a long time. The sex was incredible too. For the first time, I started to think maybe this open marriage thing wasn't so bad after all. I found myself looking forward to my dates with Becca, counting down the hours at work until I could see her again. That's when things took a turn. Sarah suddenly became much less enthusiastic about ethical non-monogamy. She started complaining that I was spending too much time with Becca. She'd get upset if I had plans with Becca on nights she was home. She even suggested we close the marriage again. I was stunned by her hypocrisy. She's the one who pushed for this in the first place. And now that I was finally enjoying it too, she wanted to take it away? I refused to end things with Becca. Sarah and I have been fighting constantly ever since. The truth is, I think I'm falling for Becca. She makes me feel loved and appreciated in a way Sarah hasn't in years. When I'm with Becca, I feel like I can truly be myself. There's no pressure, no walking on eggshells. Just easy, comfortable companionship. I'm starting to wonder if Sarah and I should just get divorced so I can be with Becca fully. But I'm torn. Sarah and I have built a life together and walking away from that isn't easy. We have history, shared memories, intertwined lives. Our families are close, we have the same friend group. Divorcing wouldn't just mean leaving Sarah, it would mean upending my entire life. I don't know what to do. Did I handle this all wrong from the beginning? Should I have just said no to the open marriage idea entirely? Am I the asshole for refusing to close our marriage now? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning and I don't know which way is up anymore. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post and things have only gotten worse between Sarah and me. The fighting has escalated to the point where we can barely be in the same room together without it turning into a screaming match. Our once peaceful home has become a war zone. Sarah is now demanding that I break things off with Becca immediately. She says she made a mistake pushing for ethical non-monogamy and wants us to go back to being exclusively committed to each other. But I just can't bring myself to end my relationship with Becca. The more time I spend with Becca, the more I realize how unhappy I've been in my marriage. Becca listens to me, supports me, and makes me feel valued. With Sarah, I constantly feel like I'm walking on eggshells, never knowing what will set her off next. I've started to reflect on our relationship history, and I'm realizing there were warning signs I ignored. Sarah has always been somewhat controlling, always wanting things her way. When we first started dating, I found her take-charge attitude attractive. But over time, it's become suffocating. She decided where we'd live, what car we'd buy, even what we'd do on weekends. I went along with it because I wanted to make her happy, but I've lost myself in the process. There was an incident a couple years ago that I'm now seeing in a new light. Sarah got a job offer in another city and just assumed I'd quit my job and move with her. When I expressed hesitation, she accused me of not supporting her career. We had a huge fight about it. In the end, she turned down the job, but she held it over my head for months, making me feel guilty for holding her back. Now I wonder if that was the beginning of her resentment towards our marriage. I tried suggesting couples counseling to Sarah, thinking maybe a professional could help us work through this mess. She refused, saying therapy is a waste of time and money. She's convinced that if I just cut off contact with Becca, everything will magically go back to normal. But I don't want things to go back to how they were before. I realize now that Sarah and I have had problems for a long time that we've both been ignoring. The open marriage experiment just brought them all to the surface. I've started seriously considering divorce. I know it won't be easy, but I'm beginning to think it's the only way forward. Sarah and I clearly want different things now. She wants monogamy again, while I've discovered that ethical non-monogamy actually works well for me. I spoke to a lawyer last week to get some preliminary advice on how a divorce might play out. Sarah found out somehow and completely lost it. She accused me of betraying her and threw me out of the house. I've been staying with my brother Eric, 35M, for the past few days. Eric has been a godsend during all of this. He's letting me crash on his couch, listening to me vent, and offering advice. Eric and Sarah never really got along. He always thought she was too controlling for me. Now he's saying I told you so, which isn't exactly helpful, but I know he means well. Eric thinks I'm crazy for even considering staying with Sarah after everything that's happened. He says she manipulated me into the open marriage, then tried to manipulate me back out of it when things didn't go her way. Part of me knows he's right, but another part still loves Sarah and grieves for the relationship we once had. Becca has been incredibly understanding and supportive through all of this. When I told her about the situation with Sarah, she offered to step back if that would help save my marriage. Her selflessness only reinforces my feelings for her. But I told her I didn't want to lose her. We're still seeing each other, though less frequently now that I'm staying at Eric's. I'm at a crossroads and I know I need to make a decision soon. Do I try to salvage things with Sarah? Or do I accept that our marriage has run its course and move on? The thought of starting over is terrifying, but staying in this miserable situation seems even worse. My parents called me yesterday after hearing about the separation from Sarah. They're worried about me and don't really understand what's going on. They keep asking if Sarah and I can't work things out. They adore Sarah and I think they're struggling to accept that our marriage might be over. I haven't told them about Becca yet. I'm not sure how they'd react. Work has become my only escape from all of this drama. I've been throwing myself into projects, staying late at the office just to avoid going back to Eric's empty apartment. My boss has noticed my increased productivity and hinted at a possible promotion. At least something in my life is going well. I miss my home. I miss my old life. But I don't know if I can go back to it, or if I even want to. Everything has changed and I don't know how to move forward. I feel lost and confused, torn between my history with Sarah and my feelings for Becca. Whatever decision I make, I know someone is going to get hurt. I just hope I have the strength to do what's right, whatever that may be. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update and a lot has happened. After much soul-searching and many sleepless nights, I finally made the difficult decision to file for divorce from Sarah. The final straw came when I found out Sarah had been bad-mouthing me to all our mutual friends, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain who destroyed our marriage by falling for another woman. She conveniently left out the part where she was the one who pushed for ethical non-monogamy in the first place. I realized then that I could never trust Sarah again. Her manipulative behavior and refusal to take any responsibility for her role in our marital problems made it clear that reconciliation wasn't possible. The divorce process has been messy and contentious so far. Sarah is fighting me on every little detail, dragging things out unnecessarily. I think she's still holding out hope that I'll change my mind and come crawling back to her. But I'm committed to seeing this through. Becca has been my rock through all of this. She's given me space when I needed it, but also been there to offer support and comfort. We're taking things slow, not wanting to rush into anything too serious while my divorce is still pending. But I can definitely see a future with her. One unexpected bright spot in all this has been reconnecting with old friends I had drifted away from during my marriage. My college buddy Ryan, 33M, reached out after hearing about my situation. We grabbed beers and it was like no time had passed. He helped me realize how much of myself I had lost trying to make Sarah happy. Ryan reminded me of how I used to be, outgoing, ambitious, always up for an adventure. Somewhere along the line, I had become a shadow of my former self. Sarah's controlling nature had slowly chipped away at my independence and confidence. Ryan's been encouraging me to rediscover my old hobbies and interests. I've also started seeing a therapist to work through some of the emotional trauma from the past year. It's been helpful to have an objective third party to talk to about everything. My therapist has been helping me set boundaries and work on my self-esteem. The hardest part of all this has been dealing with our families. My parents are still struggling to accept the divorce. They keep asking if we've tried everything to save the marriage. It's frustrating having to repeatedly explain why reconciliation isn't an option. Sarah's family, on the other hand, has been openly hostile. Her sister called me a few weeks ago, screaming about how I've ruined Sarah's life. I tried to explain my side of things, but she wasn't interested in listening. I've had to block their numbers to get some peace. Financially, this divorce is taking its toll. Legal fees are piling up, and we're fighting over every asset. I'm trying to be fair, but Sarah seems determined to take me for everything I'm worth. I'm worried about how I'll rebuild my life after this is all over. Looking back, I can see now that agreeing to open our marriage was a huge mistake. But in a way, I'm almost grateful it happened. It forced me to confront the deep-rooted issues in my relationship with Sarah and gave me the courage to walk away from a situation that was making me miserable. I know I have a long road ahead of me, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about my future. I feel like I'm rediscovering who I am as an individual, not just as someone's husband. Whatever happens with Becca, I'm committed to putting my own happiness and well-being first from now on. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update and I'm happy to report that my divorce from Sarah was finally finalized last week. It was a long and draining process, but it's such a relief to have it over with. Sarah fought me every step of the way, trying to drag out proceedings and squeeze every penny she could out of me. In the end, we settled on a fairly equitable split of our assets. I let her keep the house in exchange for my full retirement account. It seemed fair since she was the one who pushed for the divorce in the first place by insisting on opening our marriage. I've moved into my own apartment now and am slowly settling into my new life as a single man. It's been an adjustment, but overall I'm happier than I've been in years. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Becca and I are still together and going strong. We decided to make our relationship official once my divorce was finalized. She's been incredibly patient and understanding throughout this whole ordeal. I'm excited to see where things go with her now that we can fully commit to each other without any lingering complications. I've maintained my friendship with Ryan and have been expanding my social circle. It's nice to be able to go out and do things without having to constantly check in or feel guilty about it. I've taken up rock climbing and joined a recreational soccer league, things I always wanted to try but Sarah discouraged. My relationship with my family has improved since the divorce was finalized. They've finally accepted that Sarah and I are over, and they're starting to see how much happier I am now. My mom even invited Becca over for dinner last week, which was a big step. Work has been going well too. I got that promotion I mentioned in my last update, which has been both challenging and rewarding. The extra income has been helpful in getting back on my feet financially after the divorce. As for Sarah, I've heard through the grapevine that she's already dating someone new. Part of me hopes she's learned from our experience and will treat her new relationship better. But mostly, I'm just glad it's not my problem anymore. I still have moments of doubt and sadness about how things ended with Sarah. We were together for a long time, and it's not easy to just erase those memories. But I know I made the right decision for myself. Becca and I are talking about moving in together in the near future. It's exciting but also a little scary. I want to make sure we're not rushing into anything. My experience with Sarah has made me more cautious about relationships, but also more appreciative of what a healthy partnership should look like. Looking back on everything that's happened over the past year and a half, I can honestly say that while it was incredibly painful at the time, I'm grateful for how things turned out. If Sarah hadn't pushed for ethical non-monogamy, I might still be stuck in an unfulfilling marriage, too afraid to leave. Instead, I've discovered what I really want out of life and a relationship. I've learned to stand up for myself and not let others manipulate me. And most importantly, I've learned that it's okay to put my own happiness first sometimes. To anyone else out there struggling with similar issues in their marriage, don't be afraid to walk away if things aren't working. Life is too short to stay in a situation that makes you miserable. Trust your gut and do what's best for you. It might be scary at first, but I promise it's worth it in the end.